witches.
Hi, hello. Mm.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to start laughing at me again.
No.
Ugh.
Listen, third time's the
The,
charm. We got this.
the night and its moon. We are back to this.
Oh, I'm cold.
We had quite a few
Listen.
episodes in between, but lots of happened after chapter 17. Chapter 17, listen, was like 30 pages long for no reason.
It really was. Like, I have some written literally on like the first page of chapter 17, and then I have some written on like the first page of chapter 18, and it's 30 pages in between.
Yeah, like
And that's like
shit. I mean, I wrote a
insane.
couple things, but like, oh, it was a lot. And I didn't even write anything till like multiple pages in, till page 156. And then I was just
Uh,
like, I'm sorry, I was just like, fuck yeah.
oh
Like,
no.
she was like, you are gonna let me stay and you are gonna do this. And I was like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I was like, where did we leave off? So Amaris is essentially going in front of all these people, all of these reavers or assassins, as she calls them. And it's like this meeting that is going to essentially uh, see if she is allowed to stay or not.
Yeah.
And supposedly, Samuel, is that how you pronounce it? Or I looked it up, but every time I look it up, I always say it differently each time.
Well, let's just go back
Um,
to the pronunciation guide.
right? Samuel.
Samael.
I like that better than how I was pronouncing it. I don't know what the fuck I was doing.
Samael.
This was also at like 10 o'clock at night. I had no sleep. I had to get up at like dark 30 to go to work today. So like that my bad. Samuel.
I literally fell
Anyways.
asleep in the middle of reading chapter 17 yesterday. Like, I was sitting on the bed reading and, like, I nodded off, and then I was like, oh, and I woke up and finished reading the rest of the chapters. But chapter 17 took me an hour at least to get through. Like,
Yeah. And it's not that it was boring. It was just there was so much to intake, and then when you're when you're
yeah.
wanting to talk about it, you have to kind of focus on what you want to talk about, anything that kind of like brings it up, and God, I tell you. But
Yeah.
we learned a lot in chapter 17 about the fortress and the reavers and all of that. And literally on chapter or page 150, so she's essentially describing 3 dining rooms that she's ever been in. And the one that she's currently describing is the one in the fortress, and it's essentially just carved into like the center of the mountain. The tables are basically rock, and the legs are like built into the ground, and it's rock too. And like all these reavers are like sitting there, and she calls it a dining room. And honestly, I'm like, that sounds more like a war room, or
Right, or like a conference room
like an
almost.
important, yeah, like an important meeting room of some sort. Like,
It kind of
what do you
reminds me
mean?
of, like, in the Chronicles of Narnia, one of the battles, I don't remember which battle, but during one of the battles, they're in like a cave under a hill or something, and there's a
Yeah,
table that's like built out of the rock, and yeah, it reminds
yeah,
me of that. And that was a war room.
yeah. And I think just the way that the way I pictured it is just, it's not like a dining room. I just feel like they're all standing there or sitting there, and they're like spots that they need to be. And then it's just your prisoner is brought forth, and it's like Judgment Day. Here we go. That's what I was thinking
Right?
of. But yeah. So we she's kind of taking it all in. She's kind of seeing like who's here, who's there. She's not trying to look too hard at anybody because she's gonna lose her like confidence that she's gained. And she sees at the far end of the table, at, like basically the head of the table, she sees a too beautiful dark-haired man in his late 20s, and immediately I was like, Reese, is that you?
Hey, Reese.
Reese, what are you doing here? This is not your
Right.
home.
This is not where you're supposed to be. Get out of here.
And then and then later on, we find out that he's Faye, and I was like, son of a bitch, Reese, you're not supposed to be here at all. And then it's like
Right.
centuries old, and I'm like,
Right? Because
I
she's
mean,
looking around the
obviously
room for
that's
like the oldest guy, like trying to find who
right.
Samael is because she knows he's going to be the oldest, but she's not looking at him
The
as
guy
Faye.
looking, yeah, because I think she made a comment like he appears to be important because he's sitting at the head of the table of some sort. Um, but she thought the older guy, like in his 60s, was Samael, but that's actually just like the blacksmith.
Right?
So, but
Who doesn't particularly like
Samael,
her.
yeah. So Grem is the blacksmith's name. He doesn't particularly like her, but Samael was like, "Sure, bring her in. We'll see what we can do." And uh, so then I had an idea. Okay, so you know how I originally thought like, well, what if Odrin was like her dad? And because like he's very fatherly to her, he's like puts like a fatherly hand on the small of her back to guide her forward, that kind of stuff. I was like, yo, Samuel has no idea who this person is, has no anything uh, like about her prior to what Odrin has said. So what if her description is like knocks something into her or him, and he's just like, that's my child. Like, and I thought maybe Samael, who's been around for centuries, actually did have a child, and what if it is Amaris? Um,
It could
but
be.
then I was like, or he's just taken her in because she's Fey touched. That's probably more likely.
He's also from the north and he's dark haired and all that. What if he's Amaris's dad?
Amaris's dad. You
Or
mean
not
Nox's
Amaris,
dad?
Nox's. Nox's dad.
I was like, whoa, what? Yeah, I didn't. I forgot. He is darker, like dark skinned and dark haired. Ooh, I didn't think about that. I like that. I don't have anything until like 160.
I
But
was
this
just
is
talking
this is
on
a
like
great thing.
I was just acknowledging her like magic and her powers and how she like basically told them that she was gonna stay and she was gonna train with them. And they were all like, yeah, sounds legit. Okay, fine. And Samael's like, what
Goodbye.
the fuck? Like, he's like, all right,
Well,
good show.
it's right. Well, it's like how we looked back at what is it in one of the previous chapters um uh when she told Ackard
Yeah,
or Acard or whatever to leave, and then they fucking did.
right.
They
They
all
just
did. They all
stayed.
left.
Yeah. Yep.
But
And then I don't have anything else until page 170.
so I I'm just kind of like confused at her. I don't want to call it stupidity, but I want to say like I guess her childlike ideas because she's sitting there in a room full of people that are supposedly assassins, and then uh she sees two reaver or not reavers, fae, one full fae, one half fae, and like hear stories, and the first thing she thinks is like, what happened? Why did they immediately change? Like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. But it's like you don't think fae have powers, and like you've been told
Right.
all along that you're probably fae touch. So I just feel like I would have been like, Yep, there it is. I got fucking powers, but also I live in the real world
Right.
where that is non-existent, and so that's why I would immediately think that. But and then I was like, okay, we find out at page 166 that Samael is definitely not her sperm donor because we he's just telling us about like his time and all of that. So confirmed because he basically is just like, yeah, I try to take in who needs it as they need it, blah blah blah. It's like good guy Samael.
Yeah,
Um,
and he also threatened her and said that if she ever used her, they're calling it her persuasion, that if he ever
mm,
used it again while in the Reeve or the castle or whatever, the fortress, he would kick her out. So,
she's got to earn her stay,
yeah, and he's taking care of the
which I think it's
people.
fine. I mean, I think it's great.
Oh, yeah. I think I would be
I
that way
think
too.
she should work on like honing it so that maybe she could use it in battle.
Yeah.
However,
But she
I
could
do
go down to
agree,
like stone and do that. She doesn't have to do that against her brothers. It's kind
right?
of
And if
reminiscent of
anything,
like the Night Watch in Game of Thrones. Like they're up in the
oh
mountains in this like treacherous area in the north, and
yeah,
kind of makes me think of the Night Watch.
I was
We
gonna
just started
say, you know,
watching Game of Thrones for the first time
like
ever.
again or for the first time? Oh, first
No,
time
for the
ever. Okay.
first time. I've read the books, well, most of the books. Um, I haven't read the last one, but we've never watched it, so we started watching it for the first time. So that's in my
How you
mind right
feel?
now.
Oh,
I feel that there is a lot of I've seen more penises than I ever care to see in my life. Um, and it's
more
very bloody, so
incest.
it's
Yeah.
not yeah, that too. It's not great to watch while you're eating, which is usually when we watch TV.
Yeah, I decided I tried really, really hard to stay away from spoilers. Anybody tell me what it's about? All I knew it was that it was rated R, and my parents had HBO, and I was like, all right, I'll watch it. My dad gets really awkward around certain subjects, specifically like sex and all that stuff. So, and mom and I are just like, whatever, it's a thing, it happens. And he walks in and he sees literally like the first or second episode with Cersei and fuck, I forgot his name, Lannister,
Jamie.
Jamie, having sex, and he's just like, "What the fuck are we watching?" And I was like, "That's her brother."
Oh my
And
god.
then he got really mad, and he's like, "Ugh." And then he sees Jamie like push the kid out of the window, and then he goes, "Things I do for love," and he goes, "Love?" I was like, "Yeah, Dad, sibling love is real." And he was like, "I'm not watching this." So I was like, "All right, whatever. We don't have to watch it. You're gonna make a big deal about this. I'm just gonna turn it off." So that, and then I decided I was just gonna buy the first season and I'd watch it at my apartment away from him. I was like, "All right, whatever. You're gonna be
Oh my gosh.
up in arms about this. So I just won't watch it with you."
Yeah. We have
But
HBO and that's what we're watching how we're watching it, but the episodes are just so long. I
definitely,
struggle.
it's definitely some trigger warnings that need to be
Yeah,
put
for
out there.
sure.
But it's not bad. I mean, it's a pretty good series. But um,
Anyway, I
yeah,
digress.
yeah.
Page 170. Amaris has like a revelation or a negative. I don't know. Is there a word for a negative revelation or an epiphany
uh,
where she realizes that,
she is an evil person.
yeah, that she told Nox to wait for her. She didn't say it as a question. She didn't say it. as like a request. She said, "Wait for me," as a command.
Like
Um,
Ella Enchanted command.
yeah, yeah, and so now we know why Nox like couldn't move and
Yeah.
all of that.
Like
Um,
why she like waited, not necessarily just like sprinted out, just like paused and didn't
yeah,
know what to do,
yes. So
which comes clearer later on too.
yes, and as far as Amaris knows, Nox is just still at Farley. Farley, it's Farley, right?
Yeah,
She's just still at Farley, hanging out with the Grey Matron, doing her thing. She doesn't even realize the truth of it all,
which is so
which
fucking
is,
sad.
yeah, it's wild. Like, as I was reading, once I got past chapter 17, I was like, holy shit. Holy shit.
I
It just
know.
kept
Once it
hitting
came up
me.
to it, you're like, oh, um, yeah, it's absolutely insane.
And that is all I had for chapter 17. Even though it was such a long
Same.
chapter, those a lot of it was just like building the world of, what is it, Umrave? Umreeve?
Umreeve. Umreeve. It's like Uma from Descendants.
Uma. Yeah. And now she's in and she's training. Um
Ooh,
and she is
yo,
not
this
doing
would
so hot.
suck. No. A good comparison is like Hercules in the Disney
Yes.
animated series. Hercules struggling to be a
Yes.
hero, and then they're just like, "You want to be a hero, okay?"
Yes.
That's
Literally,
exactly what I'm hearing.
the run when they're like running down the mountain and back up, I would have looked and I would be like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to stone.
I would have rolled. I would have fucking been a bowling ball. I've been knocking them bitches down. I'd be like, 2 points.
But then I gotta run back up. Mm-mm. Nope. It's
No,
not
my
for me.
asthma could never.
No, especially in the cold too. Mm-mm. You want
Mm-mm.
me to do
Maybe
what?
in the cold would be a little bit better, but like that heat though, that summertime heat. Mm-mm.
I don't know. Cold messes up my lungs too. It's just a no for
Yeah, I
me.
guess it does make it like harder to. Sorry, I yawned. It just made you
Yeah,
yawn.
rude.
Um. Uh. Yeah. No. No. Thank you. It's.
And
She's
then
just
she
questioning.
like
She goes, "We're meant to run
can't
down."
even hold the sword. Like,
I know.
I
She's
feel
like
like
15. She's little.
I feel like they should have started her with like some strength training and some cardio.
They have.
I mean,
It's
I
called running
I
up and
guess
down the
running up and
mountain.
down the hill is, yeah, or the mountain is cardio,
Running
I
up
guess.
that
But
road. Be running
oh
up
my
that
gosh,
hill. Yeah, no, no thanks. I don't want to do that. I mean, I think like doing whatever they're doing would be awesome, but listen, they gotta like let me train a bit to get up to that. But
yeah,
um,
it's not for me.
yeah, no, but but then she learns a little bit more about different things like located around Girardin. I think that's what it's called. And I guess Farley or Forland. What is it?
Farley.
Farley and Girardin. Um, but so we learn a little bit more about like the countries essentially beyond the borders and where possibly she's from. So apparently she could be from you have to cross the straits. Soulgrave. So she could possibly be from Soulgrave due to her hair, her milky white skin, and her like purple eyes. So she learns more and more about that from Samael. And um, then she also will, what is it? Enjoy her time reading her books and her thing. And she's learning about all kinds of beasts in the bestiary from the local area. And I'm like, okay, so she's reading Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them because it's
Yes.
exactly what it is. It's a how-to guide, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean, the fact
Yes.
that they actually
Just
have something like that, then
yeah, I agree. And I also wondered, um, at one point, well, never mind. I'm not gonna say that yet because that gives away something from a later chapter. I'll
yeah, don't
say
do
it
it.
later.
I don't
But
know what you're gonna say, but don't do it.
later on page 183, she is trying. There's a little boy there. I don't remember how old he is, but he's younger than her. He's like
Uh,
maybe 11, I think.
I think he's 11 because in 3 years he'll be like, no, I think he's like 8 or 9 because I think 3 years later he'll be like 11 or 12 and he'll actually start training.
Right. But his name is Bro, and she has discovered, like, she's trying to talk to
His
him and, like,
origins.
get a friendship. Yeah, and she's learned a little bit about him and his backstory, which including that he um, doesn't have a tongue. His tongue has been cut out
By his
uh,
parents.
by his parents because they um, he some of his first words were magic, and he could
Make things
do
explode or something.
magic
All,
basically.
all I
Yeah,
can
like
think of is like Jack when he like explodes into like a fire human baby thing.
yeah,
But like I think
yeah,
people were afraid of him and they were like, okay, well, you need to do this in order to protect yourself, and so they did.
yeah. So he couldn't speak spells anymore. They just cut out his tongue. But
Shitty.
even then, like he's still like a happy little kid, and he loves where he's at, and he this is his
Because like
family now, and
I think he came when he was like 3 or 4, so he didn't really know much.
right.
Um, but
And then
yeah, but then she goes, um, she was nauseated to whisper that the world was a terrible place, and I'm like, oh, poor Mars, because like she was mad, she was sad, she wanted to cry, she was trying to hold it in, like she was really upset, and it's like the world sucks. Case closed.
yeah, for real, for real. I said something about that at school the other day. I was like, I definitely like animals more than people. And one of the kids was like, ah, and I was like, I do. Like I'm just being truthful.
it's
I love
yeah,
you
I was talking
all,
to my
but I like animals more than most people.
right. I was talking to my boss today. He's like, hey, did one of the guys get sick last night? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, oh, well, someone didn't make it to the bathroom because there was puke from the entry of the door to the bathroom all the way to the stall. And I was like, ugh, are you
Ooh.
serious? And he goes, yeah. Did you not know about that? And I was like, to be honest, I was in the women's bathroom cleaning shit off the floor. So, like, I heard something happening. And it
But
sounded
in
like someone was
retail.
throwing up. But by the time I got done cleaning up shit off the caked shit off the floor in the women's bathroom, I had no idea where anything had happened. And when I came out, I was like, man, it sounded like someone got sick. No one said anything to me, so I don't think it was them. And one of them was up at the register the whole time. The other one had like free reign of everything. But I was like, he didn't say anything to me, and he said he felt fine yesterday, like he wasn't sick, so it's probably a customer. And he goes, I fucking hate people. I was like, bro,
For
me
real
too.
though. Ugh, customer service is the worst.
I know. We're not a service. Like, we don't do things for you. We just make things e- easy for you to
Available
find
to you.
and accessible. So, when you sit there and you take something off the shelf, fucking put it back instead of putting it on a shelf 4 things down. You gotta bend over. This is what pisses me off. An item is on the top of the shelf, like height, like face height, and then all of a sudden it's down on the like damn near the floor, and it's like you bent over to put an item down below instead of up here. Like what the fuck?
People are the worst. Ugh.
Anyways, world sucks.
It does.
But we have some good news from Maris because she's no longer a baby. And I'm so proud.
But like, I was a little bit like, what the fuck just happened? Because all of a sudden, it's on page 185. It's 3 years later.
Yeah, that really threw me off. I mean, I
Well, I
can
was just like,
see like
what's happening to Nox? Like, where is Nox? What? I mean, I need to
same.
know
I
what's
was like,
going
are we ever
on,
going to hear about Nox ever again, or is she just gone for a
right?
while? But yeah, over the months and then that turned into years, she basically was able to keep up with people. She was able to pass people, and that pissed
Yes.
some people off. So then they ended up not going for the runs anymore. And then she was able to be one of the best sparring people in the Reavers. So now she's like she's a fucking badass. And she's now 18. It's been 3 years later, and she is able to become a full-fledged Reaver and head to her essentially an initiation, which is great.
Yeah. Which
But
is also kind of gross, but
okay, it's really gross, but let me tell you, Piper CJ just made it sound so romantic. Like, you know how like some people like romanticize like suicide or like murder or something like that. Like she did that
yeah.
with this blood oath crap, and I was just like, that's some good twist of words. That actually made me feel like, ooh.
Right. Right.
It was good. It was
Well,
good writing, but damn, that's dangerous.
I was cracking up a little bit because she, on the very first page of chapter 19, she's talking about the rich, or the, what is it?
The
The
ritual.
oath is about to happen. And she's like, is it always at sunset? And they're like, Odrin says, it's tradition. Plus, oaths require a certain sense of drama, don't you think? And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah,
literally,
you're
you
right.
guys are about to cut your palms open and share blood by shaking hands. I think that's drama enough. Like, I don't think we need the sunset too. Like,
It's
I'm
so
sorry.
weird. Because everyone's got like these pinkish little scars on their hands, and it's like, well, where the fuck did they come from? Oh no, it's because of the oath that they take as Reavers.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird because I feel like they go like from highest rank or like the oldest in the Reavers to like the youngest, or to like the person who's like becoming a full fledged Reaver because Samael was the first one to do it, and then he passed it along until it got to Amaris, and now she's holding a blood soaked dagger of her brother's, and she cleanly slices her hand and joins the blood with all the rest of her brothers, and I'm just like, so you
Blech.
had a blood oath. That's exactly what you did. You had a blood oath, but
And I'm just like,
it's done so much better.
my mystic mind is over here like, what if just one of them had AIDS? Like, just one of them. Like, just one. What if just
Honestly
one of them
though,
had a
like,
bloodborne disease? Or hepatitis? It
well,
doesn't
and
have to be AIDS. Like, what if it's anything?
well, and then it's literally said in a few chapters, I think, um, in one of them that we've read, that the Reavers aren't bound by any religion, law, or like ownership. They there's like I think they literally said the archaic form of religion or whatever, the gods, the old gods or the archaic gods and goddesses basically forbade them from having relationships with people outside of anything or promiscuous relationships, but this doesn't. They're essentially just like the guardians of the church, and they just want peace and harmony. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool, like their idea and all of that. But honestly, if that's the case, like that could legitimately be a concern.
Right? They're just free, wild and free, and sharing the blood.
Sharing all of it.
Just saying. Just saying. And then
Um,
like wild, it's just wild. Like the rest of the chapter, they're talking about how much better she's getting. She's now the best like sparring partner person, and
good for her.
yeah, it was like a whirlwind of a chapter where a lot happened, but not a lot happened at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
A lot happened in a short span of time. Not
Yeah.
time, but short span of pages. But there's a comment that she talks about Ash. So Ash is the halfling that she was paired up with. So that's her sparring partner. That's the other Fae person that she saw at the table the evening that she was essentially allowed to stay. And she's talking about let's see, the sweat clinging to Ash was from their morning run, and if she wasn't mistaken, Ash's sweat only underscored his distinct sweet smell of autumn's dying leaves. She's always wondered if it was a fey quality, the lure of scent, though now wasn't the best time to ponder such attributes. And I was like, listen, if they have sense, like the ability to lure people with sense, like fuck, I'm bye. I'm out. And you know what? Piper CJ says, do not do anything with Faye. Do not interact with them because of her masters. And like, she's got a master's in folklore. So like, I believe her, but I say nay, for I am stupid. Give me all the sense. I love the sense.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a sense whore, and I think it's only gotten worse because like Will doesn't have a sense of smell. So I have to smell everything to make sure things aren't bad, like the animals didn't make a mess, or like just to figure out something. And I just feel like I've increased my wonderful sense of smell.
I'm just
So now
imagining, like, you know
I
how,
love it.
like, when there's like sirens, like for example, in Harry Potter with the oh, what are they called? At the World Cup, there's the Velas. With the Velas,
Uh.
I think they're only in the book, but the Velas are dancing and like Hermione's like, "Shut up, sit down." Meanwhile, Harry and Ron are about to jump out of the fucking um, top
Yeah.
box because of the Velas. It reminds me of that, but like opposite. Like Emily's like following us, like sniffing and following away, and Will's like, "No," because he can't smell it.
Listen, every single time I do one of those, like, what mythological creature are you? Um, I'm usually a siren, so not specific, not a mermaid. The sirens from like Greek mythology, the ones that would lure men to their deaths. And I made a comment about that to someone. I don't remember what it was, who it was, but they were like, "Well, yeah, it makes fucking sense." You literally get lured by the stupid things like scents. Man, walk by a candle and you just stop and immediately start sniffing everything. And I was like, fucking dog, apparently.
Oh my
Listen,
gosh.
it's who I strive to be. I strive to be with the Fae so that I can be a siren.
Oh no.
Whatever. Anyways, I am stupid, and if I magically disappear one day, you know where I went. I smelled the autumn leaves in the forest and I ran away,
Oh my god.
never to be
Blizzard
heard
would
from
be
again.
like, "Did she say anything?" And I'd be like, "She told me that she was gonna sniff the Fae and get kidnapped.
And then the
Not a
police are
white
gonna be
man
like,
for this one."
okay, was she on drugs? No.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
The point is, she's messing with folklore that she shouldn't be fucking with. Listen, I'm going to Tennessee in July. I'll be in the mountains. I'll be with nature. Which,
Oh
by
my
the way,
god.
uh, one of my friends who's going, she's like, can we go for a walk in the woods? And somebody else who's coming with was like, a walk in the woods? What the fuck you mean walk in the woods? We're gonna be in the mountains. And she's like, I don't know, I just kind of want to frolic through like the flowers and like the woods. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. We'll make flower crowns. We'll fucking go do it. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, really excited. And then everyone's like, no thanks. I think I'll just stay at the cabin. And I was like, fine. We'll get up in the early fucking morning and go frolic through the woods looking for mushrooms and being our own little fairy folk. Well, you
I can
party
see it
poopers.
now. You're gonna be on the news. There's gonna be a bear attack. Emily's gonna smell something, and she's gonna be like,
We're
"It's the
actually
Fae,"
staying at
and
a
it's gonna be a
cabin.
fucking bear.
We're actually going to be staying at a cabin that's like nicknamed Bear Manor or something like that because of like the location of it. And I was like, actually, maybe we should reconsider because like even on the like Verbo sites, there's pictures of bears that like you could see
Yeah.
from.
My mom and stepdad went to Tennessee and stayed in a cabin. I think they went to Gatlinburg, and stayed in a
That's where we
cabin.
were going.
She literally sent me a picture of a bear on their like patio thing right beside the hot tub. Like they were inside, but a bear just climbed right up onto their patio. And I was like, "Did you leave food out there?" Because like it was where the hot tub was, and she was like, "No, it just came up here." Yeah,
It's
beware of bears. Don't go to the bears,
gonna be
Emily.
great.
Anyway,
The bears are
chapter
the
20.
fairies. Finally. Honestly, I
Finally,
wrote
we
that
go
in my
back to
book.
Nox.
I literally said finally, but also
I started reading and I was like, what in the fuck is going on? Because it is 3 years later and she's 18 or 20 years old or something like that. And I'm
21,
like,
yeah, or something. See,
yeah,
this is what I don't understand. So, and I even made a comment about that. Um, somewhere along the lines, I don't know where I wrote, oh, literally chapter 22. There's something that happens in chapter 22 that really makes me confused about the timeline. And we can talk about it then, but I just want to bring that up now.
for sure. So she
But
just starts talking about all these crazy things and like the Duke is here and she's like all seductress and I'm like, are we gonna get a flashback to how she learned to do all of this? Like
yeah, like I
she's
want to know
like
all of this.
all this like spy intrigue bullshit, but also
Espionage.
yeah, like she's seducing him, and I was just like wild. And then we
And
get our character Emily back.
hi. I just want to say how we get how she like essentially manipulates the Duke into doing her own bidding. It makes you think that she's Fae. Like honestly, you're like, okay, well maybe she's got something similar to like persuasion. Like she can convince people by just like looking at her, like a siren in a way. Um,
Right.
but then honestly, okay, and I'm weird for this, and this is gonna sound so bad. But like I have a master's in psychology. I think the human brain is so like fucking weird. Like you could say one thing and continually say that thing until you believe it. And I think it's so weird how we can manipulate our own selves into thinking things or other people. And to me, it's kind of like a challenge. How can you manipulate someone into believing something? And I do it ethically. I don't do it because I'm a fucking asshole. I do it for fun, but I also do it as a joke. So like Will try to gaslight me into thinking I did something, and then it pisses me off because I know he got me, and then I try doing the same to him, and I can never get him, so I always get everybody else. I just don't get him. But I think it's fun because then I learn new ways to try to manipulate, and that's what I enjoy, the challenge of like trying to make somebody believe something. But it sounds bad, so I have to explain it. But I think honestly, I think like it just intrigues me, and I think the challenge would be fun. Not to sleep with them. I don't want to do that, but
Oh
I don't want to be
my
a
gosh.
selkie.
This whole thing is just wild. Like wild
That's where
shit.
the word came from. Okay, Piper CJ posted on Instagram something about I saw a selkie. I saw a selkie. I was like, the fuck is a selkie? And I looked up. It's like a mermaid. And then I was like, where did I hear selkie before? Where have I heard that word before? It's in the fucking book.
Yeah. It's like a Scottish mermaid, I think, and they like take off their
Yeah.
skins. Like they're seals when they're in the water and they take off because
Hmm.
it was I actually just um in Spare, Prince Harry's book, he talks about how his dad told him and Meghan Markle a story about selkies, and then they went out to the water and saw a bunch of seals, and they were like, "They're selkies," and it was like a whole thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that they could take their skins off. It's a whole thing. Selkies are really
Yeah, it's
fascinating. I
weird.
find them fascinating.
See, we
Um,
all have our weird fascinations.
um, back to this now. What are we doing? Oh, she's got
We're
this like
learning.
duke, or is he a duke?
He's a duke.
Yeah, she's got this
Lordling
duke
is
that
what they
she's
call him.
like um manipulating,
He's kind of an
basically.
asshole.
Yeah, yeah. Um and then as it keeps going, like she's seducing him basically. And all of these crazy things are happening and I'm just like what is going on? But then finally
Yeah,
on
and
page
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying finally on page 202 we find out a little bit more um about the duke anyway, because we hear Emily, like we flash back a little bit, and Emily, which is the redhead from Farley, um, is like their, I don't even know what word I
Espionage,
want to use. Yeah, she like
patron seeker,
lures. Yeah, she like lures the um people to come to the Selkie, and they like target specific people. So she's out here targeting um
rich
this
people.
Duke basically to get him to come to the Selkie, and it apparently works.
Yeah. It's really funny too how she does it. She's like, I just want to make sure that my like cousin's going to have like a harmonious
Yeah.
marriage to the Duke over there. Can you give me anything about it? And the guy's like, he is my Duke after all. However, he's a fucking asshole, essentially. And then she's like, okay, great. I'll go let him know that like she can't meet him tomorrow. And then she goes over there and she's like, I'm not here to whore around or do any of that, but let me tell you, my love is back at the Selkie and talking about Nox. And it's like, yeah, that's actually kind of smart. Like,
Right.
not open yourself up for invitation. However, you are the person who's going to bring back patrons.
Right. And then a page
But it's just
later, or
like, you can easily do that and make people believe something. I think that's just so fascinating how like they're doing that. Like people can literally get manipulated into doing a lot, and I just think it's like intriguing.
yeah, because she never like
Anyways,
tells him, "Oh, you have to go there," or "Oh, you should come see me there," or like she just talks about her experience, and that makes him want to go. But it's not even a real
yeah,
experience.
and
Like,
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I've been to brothels before," and she's like, "Oh, I'm sure you have." Like, I don't care.
right.
Good for her.
Um, and then on like 2 pages later, on page 204, um, she makes in her head she's thinking, and she's like she wasn't particularly fond of sending men to Knox's room or truly any of the dealings that Millicent had woven so tightly around the dark-haired beauty. And I'm like, what exactly is Knox doing to them in this room? Like, what
Right?
is going on?
Like, what are they doing and why? Well, and I kind of wonder too, now that we kind of know about Amaris, if Amaris actually went and like learned about that, if like Millicent would have been like, oh, she doesn't even need to sleep with the clientele. She could literally just tell them.
Right?
So I wonder if she would have been better off, not better off, but like had a good outcome.
Right. Well, and she could have
She could
also,
just be
like,
a
when she got
barmaid.
there, been like, no, I'm not doing that. And Millicent would have been like, okay, because she
Unless
doesn't,
Millicent's like a bird lady that everyone
right, some kind of
believes her to
fae
be.
herself. Yeah. I don't know.
But if she's Fae, then she'll still see it and she'll still see the like the
Yeah. The persuasion.
benefit
Yeah.
of it.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Oof.
But listen,
And then I had another theory, which is still kind of a working theory, but I had to expand on it once I got more information, because she was like tricking him into telling her secrets, kind of like she was getting the Duke to tell her about uh, like the different war stuff that's happening and where he's going next and who he
Mm-hmm.
needs, where troops are being sent and all that. Um, so I was like, ooh, secrets, they're spies. And then
Honestly.
the last thing I wrote for this chapter was, what the fuck?
Honestly, though, like, she's like, all right, cool, I got what I need. I guess I'll just fuck him now. And so then she gets on top of him. And then she's like going at it. And then he's like fucking dying.
Right. You're
And
just
then
like,
all of a sudden she's like, come on, you're not going to let me finish. And then she's like slapping him in the face. And you could tell like he's almost dead. And then she like kisses him. And then it's like gave him the elixir of life. And then she's like, oh, there you are. And then she's like, I need you to listen to what I'm about to tell you. And he's like, anything you say. And I was like, the
right.
fuck?
Like,
He
what
died? Did
the
he die?
fuck?
Was he drugged? Yeah. So what the hell? I don't know.
Yeah. And then
Chapter
they start
20
talking.
was a fucking
Yeah.
whirlwind.
It was a whole bunch of new information, but like no details or backstory to explain the information. It was just like,
Yeah.
whoa.
It just happened. It was just there in front of your face.
Yeah. And then Theo. Oh, Theo.
Poor Theo.
Um, poor Theo. Theo is kind of like a 40-year-old virgin kind of guy. He's not actually that old, I don't think, but he's
I
older.
think he's
He's a
like
virgin.
30s.
Oh, yep, a man of 30. That's what it says. He's a barrister, which is like a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he's a virgin and he's trying to find someone to take his virginity. Um, and every
And every
time he comes in
time
and pays, he just talks the whole time and never actually
he wants to get to
has
know the
sex.
person
Right.
until he starts talking to the barmaid, also known as Nox.
Exactly. Knox starts out as just a barmaid, and that's who we start talking. So we're like in a flashback now,
Mm-hmm.
to when Knox was like first at the Selkie.
Yeah, because the first sentence of chapter 21 says Nox really thought of how far she'd come since first seeing a corpse. And
Yeah,
so then
and
at
you're
that
like,
point, you start learning about what happened the first time she saw a corpse.
yeah,
And essentially, Theo fell in love with her and would do anything for her and essentially asked to pay for her virginity
and paid
because Millicent,
way,
yeah,
way
Millicent
too
was
much.
like, yeah, Millicent was like, you're not taking her for her hand in marriage. Like, you're not doing that. And he's
Yeah,
like, okay, well, I'll take her virginity. And she's like, okay, what are you worth? And so basically, she took all of that he was worth
yeah,
just to, have all the virginity. And poor girl, I mean, poor both of
and
them, but like,
uh-huh.
poor Knox, as he like enters her, like, and tries to start having sex, he like essentially dies. He just fucking
Yeah,
like drops on top of her. She's suffocating. She can't move. So she's trying to
she's
move and
like,
get out of the
what the
way.
fuck?
And then she's calling on him, asking him to get up, get up. And then she gets out from under him. And then she like realizes that he's like possibly dead. And then Millicent
Yeah,
hears her screaming and comes in and asks what's going on. And then something strange, even more strange, happened. The
ugh,
We find out that she can kill him by having sex.
yeah. And then I wrote, is she a
Like
fucking
a
succubus?
succubus. That's what I was thinking. I was like, nah, she's a fucking succubus. Like, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And it's, and side note, I kind of wonder too if Millicent, I mean, obviously, I don't know the extent of her business transactions or anything like that, but I kind of wonder if Millicent wouldn't be opposed to paying or having someone pay for like the idea of rape. So like taking a not so willing girl and a guy's like, yeah, I want that one. right, go ahead, do whatever you want to do. She's not going to want it, but go ahead and do it. You got to pay extra for it. Like I want to know if she's not opposed to that. Cuz like it's a brothel.
Right.
So
Like
like
how fucked up is she?
but and Knox made comments in like I think this chapter or the one before about how the Duke probably expected like whips and candles and chains, and then it was just like a silk piece to tie his hands up.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, this whole part is just like it.
Yeah, Millicent ends the chapter with, well, 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 what have we here? And I was like, yes, what do we have here? I
For
think we have a
real.
succubus. Because
Yes.
in the next chapter, she's like, how did you feed?
Right. And we're like, oh,
Feed?
okay.
Feed? What do you mean, feed? And like, even Nox is confused. She doesn't know what's going on. She's like, I don't understand what you mean by feeding. And so then she finds out, like, this person's a fucking virgin. And then she's like, how did you survive? And then Nox is just like, what?
And she
But
mentions in chapter 22 at the beginning, on the first 2 pages, she says at least 3 times that he was inside her when he died. And I'm just like, get really heebie jeebie by that. Like,
I know.
like,
It's just weird.
ugh.
But this is the part where I want to have the timeline because Millicent was like, how are you a virgin at 21?
Oh, that's
Was that
strange.
just like an author mistake and just like the flashbacks just got messed up? But I thought she was like 17, 18 when she was taken away with Millicent. So 3 or so years later would mean that she's at this time.
Huh.
But if she's a virgin at 21, I just does it doesn't make any sense because she's supposed to be 3 or so years older than Amaris, and Amaris is 18. And she showed up as a 15-year-old. So
Yeah.
I mean, like we can continue to discuss that afterwards, but I need a timeline somewhere because I think
Yeah.
I'm getting lost about ages at least. And I know that's not important to the story, but I want to know. So many things happen to like kids who are like 11 and you're just like, damn, how old are they? 20? No, they're fucking 11. And it's like, oh damn, like that's traumatizing. And I
Right.
think it would just make my psych brain feel more at home knowing that these people are, old enough to not have detrimental trauma, like childhood trauma. But that's all I have for chapter 22.
Ugh. That's all I have for chapter 22 as well. Not a lot happens.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot happens, but it's more so just a conversation between her and um, Millicent. And at the very end, she realizes that by him, by feeding on his sexual energy and him dying, she is now like super beautiful. Like she barely recognizes
Yeah.
herself in the mirror.
And it's because she fed,
Yeah.
essentially, like fed the correct way, I guess.
Yeah.
I think what really, it's really weird too, because like we also find out that her powers, she was shown a picture of like the typical succubus, like black wings, naked woman sitting on top of a male. Um, but we actually find out that it's like a form of dark elf, or not elf, fae, dark
Dark
fae.
Fae, yeah.
And so there's a great chance that Nox is actually from the northern tribes, like the northern part of the country, which is
Yeah.
essentially what Sam Aiel is from, where he's from.
Yes.
So she's half fae, which also brings back the maybe she was a little compelled to stand after Amaris told her to wait for her, but then she was like, "No, I can move. I'm like, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that." Like, obviously,
Yes.
she was partially convinced,
Oof.
but
Okay. Chapter 23, the last chapter we read for today, because that after chapter 23 is the end of part 2 at the beginning of part 3.
And it's a perfect cliffhanger.
So we're back to Amaris, and
She's getting a
she's
little
day
frisky
drunk.
too.
Yeah, she's like day drunk, and Ash is like fake flirting with her.
I want to
Um,
know, is it real, like flirting, or fake? I feel like it's real.
yeah, I think it might be for him, but for her, she's definitely like not interested.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you don't dip your pen in the company ink. You don't do
Right.
it.
Ugh.
Because that just makes things at work real weird, considering you all work where you live.
Right,
Don't do it.
right. Like, ooh. And you're all like brothers, like, ooh.
Yeah, that just brings some Game of Thrones vibes back into the mix, and I'm not about that.
Yeah. And
But
she's thinking about like so she's thinking about, oh well, what if I did just go find someone to have sex with just to get it over with so I'm not a virgin anymore, and
yeah.
um she's thinking about sex, and then she falls asleep, takes a nap.
And I wonder what happens,
Cinnamon and plums fill her nose.
which is also Nox's smell
Yes, over and over again throughout the book we hear that Nox smells like plums. um
or
and I
spices
was
in a
like,
way.
is she dreaming, or is this like magic? Like, what is happening? But
Astral
basically, she has
projection in a way.
a sex dream about Nox. I mean, it's not really
It's kind of one of
sex, I
those.
guess.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of one of those things too where she's just like, should I do this? Is this what I want? Kind of thing. And it's funny
Right.
because Knox actually was like, well, I could just think about it as if the person touching me is like Amaris, but what if she doesn't want to do that? Then I don't want to be that person to think like that. And I was like, consent, even though nothing physical between you guys is happening.
Right.
Like that.
But that's part
Um,
of what I was like, is this magic or is it a dream? Because, like, is this happening while Nox is over here having sex and thinking about Amaris? Like, and
right?
so Amaris is having this dream?
Which I guess is what why you said it's like a theory in progress.
Yeah.
But I think the only real thing I mean, this was not a long chapter, but the only thing I said about it, other than never dip your pen in the company ink, is um, she's talking to. This is like towards the end of it, but she's talking to Bell, and she's like getting to know him, like talking to him a little bit more, and we learn that a Reaver brought him to the fortress, and he had passed because he got into a fight with I can't remember what it is, but basically, if you touch the blood of this person or this thing, you will essentially not survive. And he wanted to be thorough because by being thorough, you have to cut them up
A
and like separate
Vegas.
them. Yeah, Vegas. Because if you don't cut them up and bury them separately, they can reanimate and form back together. So he was just being like thorough, but essentially he didn't make it. Um, so Amaris is like, "Oh, I am so sorry for that," and he's like, "I'm not because if it wasn't for him, like I wouldn't be here today." And it's like, damn, like that's good. I
Right?
like that. And then he's like, he brought me to my real family. Like this is where I belong, and I only knew him for 3 days. I barely knew anything about him. So, like, he's not, I'm not sad for his loss. Like, if it wasn't for him, I would be here. Um, and he's like, I'll be a Reaver someday. Like, you bet you that. Um, and he's like, I have more brothers here than anyone in the village. And she goes, and a sister. Wink. And he's like, nah, you'll be my brother too. um, and then the next part like kind of really resonated with me because there's a lot of things going on right now where it's like you just don't feel like you belong anywhere, and I think it really did some with me is Amaris had learned that sometimes when she was at a loss for words, it was best not to speak at all. She hugged him and he tightened his arms around her in return. He was not yet old enough to feel embarrassed by her displays of familial love, and she hoped he'd always stay that way. She wondered how often the young boy received parental affection, and it wasn't right for a child to grow up without hugs or gentleness. While everyone in the keep was exceedingly kind to the boy, she hoped he was getting the full and happy life he deserved. After all, every child deserved unconditional love from their family for exactly who they were, not for who they hoped their child might be. And it's like,
My little
that's
lesbian
right.
heart.
I know. It's like if you want to be a part of any spectrum that is known to man out there, as long as it's ethical, don't be fucking goats here. Some people are,
I
or
know.
like the people who are like, I'm I don't know what the term is, but essentially they claim that they're attracted to little kids and it's like a mental thing. It's like if you're attracted to, or like if you're a lesbian or something like that. Like I was just born to be attracted to little kids. It's like fuck, no, you didn't.
Yeah, goodbye.
um, um, shit like that I don't stand for. But like if you want to be lesbian, if you want to be trans, if you want to do any of that, you should, no matter what, have unconditional love from your family despite everything. Hashtag
And
grandma. Her,
just so
sorry.
we're clear, there was a time that I posted this on Facebook because I was having some really rough time with certain family members. If you say I love you, but that is not unconditional love. No, there's no but at the end of that sentence. That no.
I love you for is a way better thing. So you can add like I
Yes.
love you for your newfound joy in life, or I love you for this or that. It
Yes.
shouldn't matter what your kid does, says, or whatever, or who they want to be.
No.
As long as they're happy and healthy, then that's really all you should care about.
Yes. Agreed. I have one more thing about the book, and it's what I said I was going to say earlier, but then it was going to give something away. I wonder, and I wrote it down, um, if there is a succubus in her bestiary, in her book of all the monsters.
I wondered that. I was like, I wonder if she'll read about Nox, and then I also wonder if she has to come face to face with the succubus.
Yes,
Like,
I
what if
was
that's her
wondering that.
duty?
Like,
What if that's her like
right. Like in The
lifelong
Witcher,
thing?
how,
She has to.
like in The Witcher, they
Yeah,
go after, like, certain beasts, and, like, what if she gets sent on a mission to this succubus and she gets there and it's fucking Nox? Like,
right.
oy.
Oh, I'm so excited! I that would be so cool.
Right?
Okay, but anyways,
So, anyway,
until
we went
next
a little
time.
bit over it. Yeah. Bye, witches.
Bye.